Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to close up my little series about gateway bands today by focusing on Opeth. So that same night that I heard In Flames and Soilwork on Radio Chaos, I also heard Opeth for the first time. They are also a Swedish band, quite a bit different than the other two. They would be categorized as a progressive death metal. Progressive or prog is a lot like jazz, where in jazz music really anything goes, as long as it kind of fits, it makes sense. That's kind of how jazz works. And progressive music with hard rock and heavy metal is similar in that, bands could be drastically different. They can have influences from all sorts of places. Music could have key changes and tempo changes, odd time signatures, clean and distorted music that goes back in, a lot of synth, maybe other odd instruments, melodies that are obviously melody but maybe not super hummable all the time. Music you got to kind of get lost in. It's not as easy to straightforward headbang to. That's probably the best way to describe progressive music. So at different places in their career, Opeth has had black metal influences. They're currently just more or less a prog rock band. But at this time, they were maybe the premier progressive death metal band. So a couple things that I noticed the very first time I heard them. The song was Deliverance from the album Deliverance that had just come out. And the music was really heavy but not overly distorted. It had kind of a Black Sabbath kind of feel, old 70s tube amps. You crank them all the way up and they sound a certain way. Opeth sounded like that, not like a lot of really high gain distortion. That was really cool to me. Their songs did the progressive thing of sounding a little bit odd and winding in and out of clean and heavy music. Michael Ackerfeld, the singer and main songwriter, he has an incredibly beautiful, clean singing voice. And it's not like chorusy clean singing voice. It's like peaceful and calm, clean singing voice. But he also had, at least at this time, probably my favorite death metal vocals of all time. He was an incredible growler. His voice has changed a lot and he doesn't prefer to do this anymore. He'll still play these songs live, but the new music that he writes does not have harsh vocals, which is a travesty on the world. So I first heard that and I was convinced that it was a machine. He was hooked up to some effects processors and there's no way that he could do that with his voice. I'd heard harsh vocals before, but nothing quite sounded like this. I've had Brett convinced that that's how he did it. We got to find out what that is. That's crazy. So at the time I'm exploring this music, Opeth and others, I'm spending a lot of time at Graywell. I find out about the club scene in Salt Lake and that there are touring bands that come through and play these tiny venues. Had no idea. Had no idea that was really a thing. So I found out Opeth was coming through. I think this was the following April when they were touring for Deliverance, just before the next album, which is all clean music, called Damnation, came out. And I was stoked. Tickets were $8 a piece. No age limit on the show, so I bought a ticket for Brett and myself. Super stoked to go see it. Now, it's not spent a lot of time downtown. I was kind of a sheltered young boy. Not that I'm complaining about it, but we didn't spend a lot of time downtown. We weren't that adventurous to go down and walk around, and I didn't know my way around that well. But I was convinced to do this. I knew it would be a blast. We took Brett downtown. I took Brett downtown to Club DV8, which is where the show was. Club DV8, I think, was on West Temple and maybe First South. And so we're driving down there. I give him his ticket. I say, hang on to it. Make sure that you've got this with you. And I can't find a parking spot. I have no idea where to park. I don't have any cash for parking. I didn't even consider that. So what I do is I go into the mall, which I think was probably Crossroads, the one you get in on West Temple. And we park there, and I was like, well, I've got to go get some cash. So we go up into the mall. I'd just gotten a new card. I didn't know my PIN, so I was hoping that I could run a card somewhere and maybe get some cash back. And I couldn't. There's no way I could make that happen. So I ended up going to a payphone. I called my mom and said, hey, I've got a stack of papers down in this area. Will you please go see if you can help me find my PIN number? So I get some cash, and we come down and walk towards the venue, and there's nobody there. And so we're looking around and we get inside and they've moved the show. Show's been moved to Club Bricks. And I'm like, well, I don't know where Club Bricks is. I don't know what that means. They said, well, you just kind of come down here. It was like second. Is it second or third? And then you go like 5 blocks east. You'll see it. So that's what we do. We just start heading east, and 4 blocks, 6 blocks, 7 blocks, nothing. We don't see anything. And I happened upon a place. I can't remember if it was another venue or it was a record shop or a tattoo parlor, but I got the feeling, hey, these guys might know where Club Bricks is. So I asked somebody there, and they says, you're the wrong direction. You got to go back to where you were and go 5 blocks west. And we walked because I don't know what parking's going to be like. I've got a parking spot. Like, I'm not thinking about it. So we hoof it back the other way. We end up at Club Bricks, and we're ready to get inside, and Brett doesn't have his ticket. He left his ticket in the glove box. And so I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do with this? Like, I don't want to go all the way back. So, I'm trying to buy a ticket. They say you can buy tickets inside. Okay, well, I'll go inside. I got a ticket. I'll buy him a ticket inside. And they let us inside. And we get up there, and they don't take a card. I'm not thinking. I don't know anything. They don't take a card there. I've already given my ticket. It's no re-entry. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, well, if you can't pay for it, you guys would have to go. He'd have to go. So I used my parking money to buy him a ticket. And we're able to watch the show. And I'm stressing the entire time, what am I going to do when this show is over? Because I know it's going to be out late. I'm parked in a parking garage. Ugh. So let's talk about the show. The show was incredible. I'd never been in a tight venue like that and seeing a band of this caliber in a setting like this. The first band that opened up was a band called Yakuza, which I didn't care much for. And then Lacuna Coil was touring with them. It was like an Italian female-fronted rock band, heavy rock band. And they were amazing. Completely blew me away, and I bought their album, Coma Lies, just a couple days later. But Opeth comes on, and it's so hard to describe. The setting, the mood, the sound. Michael Ackerfeld does not use any effects on his voice. But one of the things I loved about that first club show is I've been to a lot of concerts before, and this wasn't a bunch of burnouts at Poison, there because it was a concert and they'd heard a couple Poison songs on the radio, like a Friday night, I just need something to do. These are people who had to sniff this music out of the underground, and they were diehard fans, and it was amazing to see this and to be a part of that group and that experience. The intimacy of being 15 feet away from this guy, who I've just now become very familiar with his music. It was absolutely amazing. As soon as the set is over, we hoof it as fast as we can back to where the mall is, go into the parking garage, and the exit is closed. But the entrance is wide open, so I tell Brett, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to exit in the entrance and come out the wrong side of the road, and then we'll get on the right side of the road. So we wait till there's no cars. We come out the entrance. We're on the wrong side of the road. We drive to the intersection, kind of go through the intersection, and back up onto the right side of the road because it was a red light. But once we were there, we were square, and we didn't go to jail that night, and everything worked out. So amazing concert, fun experience. It was horrible at the time, miserable, but it's a pretty fun story when I think back about it. I've loved club shows ever since. It's my ideal way to see a band because of that intimacy that happens when you're one of 200 people or less. I've seen some amazing bands at 30 people, which is both a travesty and amazing at the same time. So I'm going to play Deliverance for you, the intro track for the album Deliverance. There's a lot of guitar work going on, so one guy doesn't really do it justice. But it's a really, really cool song. Go give it a try. Go give it a listen. Be open-minded. And this is Deliverance. So good. super heavy, then clean and beautiful. Be open-minded. Go give it a listen. Cheers.